Well, hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and you have arrived at another overwhelming or underwhelming episode of Streaming Idiots. So delighted to have you with us today. For all the folks that are watching us live in chat, we're delighted to have you there. We're going to be talking a little bit about NDI today, and about a little follow-up on my rant about Facebook Live, and then talking about some of the stuff coming up. So where shall we start? Oh, I know. If you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Would love to have you become a subscriber to the program so that you can get notices and know when we've posted a show. Today we're actually broadcasting live using YouTube Live. It's about a 13-second latency between the time I say it and the time you hear it, and that seems to be pretty consistent throughout the world. We've had some folks overseas that had 12.8, 13 seconds, and some folks here in the U.S. about the same. Some of the folks overseas are having a little bit of buffering, but where is buffering coming from? Why does it buffer for one person and not another? Mostly it's a local issue, I think. One of the things I like about this is our second time in recent history anyway, streaming on YouTube Live. And it's nice because YouTube, the 13 seconds that it takes is the time it takes YouTube to re-encode all this stuff and make it available in a low definition feed. I think it's 144p is the lowest, all the way up to the max that I'm streaming, which is 720p, and there are 3 or 4 choices in there. So however you're watching, there's a resolution for you. And I see Jerry's here. Welcome, Jerry. Glad to have you. So we might continue with the YouTube Live experiment a little bit longer. If you go to our YouTube page, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, and you look, you might see 2 videos for today. One is the entire video, which includes the pre-show and the post-show, and then one is the video that we upload later, the 1080p edition, which is just the show itself. So you can pick whichever one you want. And by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube and you want to watch the live pre-show version, you can go to our chat also at easternshorebroadcasting.com, go to the live page, and see the chat. And you can sort of follow along in the chat as we comment back and forth. That can be a little fun. Sometimes I'll do that with Stephen Haywood's The Tech Buzz. Go back and look at the chat and try to imagine who's saying what to whom. It's kind of fun. Let's start out by following up a little bit on last week. Last week we talked a little bit about Facebook Live, and I wasn't too. Was it last week that we did that? I just need to check. Yep, it was last week. Time flies. I was not too hep on Facebook Live, and I realize now, and I appreciate Gavin Gratian taking time to share with me what they were doing with Facebook Live. And it turns out that there is probably a good use for that. And it probably has to do with folks that are not quite so internet savvy, that are not quite so intent on following a particular subject and watching videos about it, or following a particular show and watching the recorded version or the live version of that. And that Facebook just seems to be an easier path of entry for the less sophisticated. Now, I don't mean that as a criticism of folks that don't have as much skill, but rather an identification of those folks to say, okay, my wife will watch Facebook before she'll watch YouTube. And I think, Gavin, you're probably right. He had a preacher, Andrew Womack, who has 200,000 Facebook followers and 10,000 YouTube subscribers. So 200,000 and 10,000. Facebook, 200,000. YouTube, 10,000. He had a higher percentage of YouTube viewers. He had 1% of 10,000, so that was 100. He only had 0.2%, at least in the one little analysis that we did, 0.2% of the 200,000 that were watching live. So that was 400. But in raw numbers, 400 is more than 100. So for the Facebook case, he convinced me that there was. And I think he told me that later, you know, when they got through totaling viewers, that they had over 10,000 viewers at one point, or maybe it was in one day during the course of a day. So yes, I'm convinced now that Facebook Live has its place. Is it going to be the only place that I were to ever stream? No, not unless everything else broke. But it is the place that I might experiment with at some point. So hat tip to Gavin on that one. Well done, and thanks for cluing me in and getting me straight on that one. Let's talk a little bit now about NDI. NDI, as you may recall, stands for Network Device Interface, and it is an amalgamation of protocols and compression techniques that NewTek, the TriCaster folks, have developed in order to send video and audio over a network, a regular old Ethernet cable, you know, twisted pair. Not a twisted pair, but, you know, what is it, 4 twisted pairs. And they've done a great job with it, with super low latency, very impressive latency, like in a 30 frame a second, maybe only losing, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 frames. So pretty darn good in that sense. We're actually using NDI here today. The production PC is sending the video and audio of the production to you can see the little laptop off behind me here to my right, a little Asus ROG laptop with a good graphics card in it and an i7 processor, and it's bringing it's taking the NDI feed from this production PC, and then it's sending it out to the internet, in this case today, to YouTube, and it's also recording it. And so we've kind of divide and conquer. Now, yes, you know, if you're watching this show for the first time, or for the first time in a long time, you say, well, Tom, didn't you used to be the one guy, one PC advocate? And I really believe in that. If you have just one PC, yes, you can do all of it. You may have to make some compromises, but yes, you can do all of it. But it sure is nice to offload some of that stuff to a second PC. Not using this PC, the PC is just running. I actually use my phone to start the recording, and I'll use my phone to turn it off. We're using vMix 17, the latest, greatest build, which I think is version 17.0.0.85. So if you're still in the version 16s, you definitely need to upgrade. 17 is a keeper. Remember, when you do upgrade, to upgrade your desktop capture, vMix desktop capture utility as well, because it's designed to work with version 17. And if you need to, if you're more than a year out from the last time you bought your system and you need an upgrade key, go to our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com, and for $60 you can buy. I think we may even have it on sale still. At one point, we had it on sale for $50, so you could upgrade for, you know, the cost of a nice dinner, and it'll be more long-lasting than that dinner. So, and if you don't know vMix and you're interested in it, you can download a free trial at our website, a free 60-day trial, and we also sell it. I'm an authorized reseller for vMix and also for VidBlaster and Magwell and PTC Optics. And I've got a sneeze, excuse me. Recovering from a bit of a bout last night and early this morning, so trying to put it all together for you guys. But that's NDI kind of in a quick nutshell. And there is a company called Sienna that is doing some really cool things with NDI, and I suspect, you know, they're working closely with NewTek on this, and they have developed a I guess we would call it sort of a relay system, where they can take an NDI feed and they can route it all over the globe. And they just recently, and I think I posted it on my Facebook and Twitter feed maybe just yesterday. I think it was just yesterday. They had a trial. There's a big trade show going on in Singapore, about electronics and this streaming kind of stuff in Asia. And in Singapore, there is a NewTek TriCaster dealer, reseller, who was taking a NDI input into his TriCaster that originated in London. Get this. Now, I had to look this up because I didn't know this off the top of my head. My geography is a little thin in some places. But London is 6,736 miles. Don't know kilometers, but I have to give you miles, from Singapore. And it took a quarter of a second for that video to get from London to Singapore over common internet. It wasn't any kind of special pipe that they used. It was just a matter of routing, and Sienna using its NDI relay system. The dealer in Singapore took that same input, turned it into an output, and sent it back to London. Another quarter of a second. Another 6,736 miles. So in a half a second, that video traveled to Singapore and back, which is 12,472 miles in a half a second. Well, I'm kind of a stats guy, and I said, how fast is that really? Well, that is 89.8 million miles an hour. You say, well, that's impossible. That couldn't possibly do that. Well, let's keep in mind the speed of light is 671 million miles an hour. So, we're not even talking anywhere close to the speed of light. This guy would lose in a race with light big time. He'd never make it there. But in terms of frames, a half a second is 15 frames. A quarter of a second is 7.5 frames. So if you're sending video from London to Singapore, 6,000, almost 7,000 miles, it's going to take it using this new technology from Sienna that Sienna's developed, of course, in cooperation with NewTek. It will take it 0.25 seconds, 7 frames to get there. That is impressive. That is impressive. Now, let's put up this is the Sienna, part of the Sienna website. And you can see from this list, and this is Sienna is SIENNA-TV.com. And we are going to scroll down to the NDI Cloud, where you see it says coming soon. Now, most of their products, most of Sienna's products are for the OS X, which is going to be your Apple devices. But this NDI Cloud is for everybody. And the NDI Cloud, which is also, I think, internally called NDI Relay. And what they say is that basically the NDI Cloud provides a discovery where you can go out and find NDI content and forward it across a wide area network, including the internet. And it also offers multiple transport modes to suit the available bandwidth between sites. So the NDI Cloud, which is considered an intermediate NDI protocol, it compensates for the high latency and the lower bandwidth, and it just works. The amount of bandwidth that's required is massively reduced, and it appears seamless. Now, I'm sure there are going to be times where you're going to have a situation where you just got a bad day on the internet, and for some reason you're not getting your typical speed. But this is going to be a pretty big deal, and I think it's probably going to be a pretty big deal for folks that are doing conferencing, for folks that are in the news business that want to get their news feed halfway across the world. Assuming they're not using a satellite, wow, they're going to be able to get it pretty darn quick. And I think Sienna is going to be working with a lot of news organizations on this. So this is going to be it already is a big deal. And this, this may be sort of the holy grail of technology so far as video transport is concerned, to be able to get video around the world in the snap of fingers. Now, I don't know how long it takes to snap fingers. Maybe I got to snap twice, but still, that's pretty darn fast. 89.8 million miles an hour. I've got to remember to turn off my phone sound here. Sorry about that, folks. The other NDI news, which I think is really pretty cool, and it came to us by way of Red Shark News. Are you familiar with Red Shark? RedSharkNews.com, and they seem to keep a pretty keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on in the streaming industry, and they found out that Panasonic has rolled out what I think may just be the first NDI compatible camera. And of course, it is a PTZ. In fact, there are two of them. There's the AW-HE130, which I think is, let's see, that's this one. And it retails for over $8,000 US. And then the other one is the AW-HE40, which retails for about $3,500 US. They have, slightly different sensors, slightly different zooms, lots of stats. The black one there is SDI only. The white one is SDI and HDMI. They do power over internet. They do, I think the HE130, the white one, also does infrared. But the big news from my perspective is, it didn't take long for somebody to develop an NDI camera. And so now this camera is going to sit out there, and you're going to plug an Ethernet cable into it, and you're not going to plug it into a capture card on the other side. You are going to plug it into a switch or some other way of getting it onto your network. And this is going to be how we do cameras in the future. This is it right here. It is here. It's going to put the capture card folks out of business in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe less. Don't know. If I were an investor, I would not be investing in capture cards right now unless there was some tremendously unique offering that was going to be a game changer. But in terms of, finding an HDMI card, finding an SDI card, finding a VGA card, a composite card, it's all going to be NDI. I'm making that prediction right now. So if you are considering buying a camera, you might want to wait. Are you going to pay more for an NDI camera? Absolutely. But if you're just getting set up, and we deal with folks all the time that have existing equipment they want to match to. We just put a custom PC, streaming production PC in a community TV station up in Connecticut. And they had a flock of cameras that they needed to connect to. But that PC is going to be capable of doing, well, not capable of, it is capable of doing NDI right now. So the next camera they add can be added over the network and need not necessarily go through a capture card. Here's another scenario. Your system, whether it's a church or a TV station or a school or a sports organization or a radio studio, and you've got your 4-port capture card maxed out with 4 cameras already, but you need that 5th camera. that fifth camera can become an NDI camera. And pow, you're ready to go. Ready to go. Now, from what I understand, my buddies at PTC Optics up in Pennsylvania are working furiously to get their NDI camera ready to go. And if I know those guys, they are going to be rolling that sucker out before the end of the year, maybe even before the end of the third quarter. We'll have to see. We had Paul Richards from PTC Optics on, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in the in the post show, the part that wasn't recorded, he said, "This is not being recorded, is it?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay. Well, we think we're going to have it out by the end of the year. Fourth quarter Q4." So we will see if PTC Optics is able to make that unofficial deadline that they've put on themselves. The fact that Panasonic has already come out with this one and it is shipping means that there's going to be a little pressure there. Going to be a little pressure. So, 2 big news with NDI today or this week. One is the NDI Cloud, which is available from Sienna TV. And the other is the NDI cameras, and these are PTZ cameras from Panasonic, the AWHE130 and the AWHE40. They're available at B&H Photo and Amazon and all the normal places. And I suspect that the NDI Cloud is only available from Sienna, but I could be wrong on that. So that's the news. That's the news. That's all the news that's fit for me to bring you guys today. Coming up in the future, later this month. Is today June 1st? Yeah, so it is later this month. On the 22nd, we're going to have Rudy Ellis with Switchboard in as a guest. Now, the Switchboard name may not resonate with you yet, but Switchboard is the former Joycaster, and that's one of the companies out there that will take your stream and send it to multiple CDNs for you. So I could take my stream today, and instead of just sending it to YouTube, I could send it to Ustream. I could send it to YouNow. I could send it to all sorts of other places, some of which I think Joycaster, that is Switchboard, will do for free, and others like Decast and some of the paid CDNs that I would have to buy a subscription service for. So that's going to be June 22nd. Rudy Ellis with Switchboard. Mark that on your calendar. On June 29th, and this is a tentative date, but Stephen Haywood with the Tech Buzz is going to find his way over to Streaming Idiots. Stephen was gracious enough to have me on his show last year, and I don't know what happened to my brain, but I didn't reciprocate with an invitation then, should have and have now, and so it's going to be really great. Stephen is as many of you know, he's a Wirecast enthusiast, and he's also a NewTek TriCaster enthusiast. So we might be able to squeeze some information out of him on where Wirecast is with NDI, and then also see what he's been able to do with NDI with his TriCaster. It would be really fun to hook up an NDI Cloud connection with him, although we may be stuck using Skype or something like that. NDI Cloud probably costs trillions of dollars, so we'll just have to see if that's at all possible. So Rudy Ellis on the 22nd, Stephen Haywood on the 29th. And if you are interested in being a guest on the show, you've got something in particular that you've done that you think is really neat, and you think that folks would benefit by learning more about what you've done, shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, and let's talk. Because I bet there is indeed something that folks would be interested in that you're doing. You just never know. Some of the craziest stuff that people say, this is what we're doing. It's like, oh, wow, that's great. I wish everybody could know. That's it for the show today. If you are watching live, hang around in chat, and we're going to have refreshments there. I'm looking over the list to see who's bringing refreshments today. Hard to say who the last one in was, so we'll find out. But thanks for watching, and we look forward to coming back and bringing you more good info in the future. I'm Tom Sinclair, the #1 streaming idiot. We'll see you next time.